Have you ever gotten tired of adulting? I have, sure. Isn't that a great song with our talk that we're doing and the idea of leaving home and I don't want to get older? And you ever felt that way? Just last week, right? Yeah. So, as I came across this song this week, I did think it fits so well because it is applicable not only to that stage of life and living, but to all stages of life and living because it's constant change, isn't it? It's constant change. My talk today, as we're wrapping up our series, which is Aging as a Spiritual Practice, the talk is Embracing the Ride. And the ride that I'm talking about is, of course, this journey or ride through life that we're all taking, that we're all having. And particularly the ride into these later years, into the later years. As I was contemplating really how I wanted to wrap this up, I think it's been a good series. I hope you agree. But as I was thinking this week how I wanted to wrap it up, I asked myself, what does aging mean to me? What does that really mean to me? And do I believe that my spiritual practices help me with that? Have I seen how spiritual practices have helped others that I know who are even older than I am to deal with the things that happen? What else can I do to better embrace this journey? Always looking to improve, right? We're always looking for new and expansive ways. So, what else can I do as I approach that eventual sunset on this journey called life? Today, I want to talk about my journey. And then in the question and answer at the end, I want to talk about yours. I want to hear what your experience has been or is or what you're anticipating. And then I also want to share some of the final thoughts in our book of the month by Richard Lewis and a practice that he talks about in there called A Day Away. And I like that name, A Day Away. We've discussed that aging is a lifelong journey from birth to death. It's not just aging as a older person. Aging happens the whole spectrum, no matter where we are on that lifeline, right? Just like the young man sang. It's a state of mind. It's a state of being. It's not just a number. It is our attitudes and our perspectives about the way that we look at life that color our experience. And it's our choices that set the sails of the experiences that we have. There's this point somewhere on that spectrum called midlife. Midlife. Everything up to midlife seems to be in pretty good balance, work in a tandem of losses and gains. Kind of like he was singing about. I've got to take down my posters. I've got to become responsible. I have an apartment now. I need to make some money and build a life. So he's losing the childhood, but look at the things he's gaining, right? We lose the college days to start a career. We lose single to start a family. Maybe we lose job through retirement, downsizing, obsolescence. Maybe the nest egg shrinks through economic factors, illness. Things on the other side of that middle age thing can start to feel out of balance, like there's more losses than there are gains. And there's just not enough time to rebuild it all. It's frustrating. It can create frustration, can also create a sense of panic, actually. Excuse me. Our children are leaving home, leaving us with an empty nest. And we're different. When we had the children and we started the home, We were different people than we are now. We don't know what to do with that new person, that new body, that new health, and whatever else might be going on. And what is the new relationship that we have? Change. Change. We may feel that we've got a loss of health and vitality, and it seems there's not enough time. It was author Stephen Levine in his early writings about hospice who said, "Don't worry, dying's perfectly safe." But let's not get ahead of ourselves because we're not talking about dying and death today at all. We're talking about aging. We're talking about embracing aging as a spiritual practice. As a spiritual practice. It can be a grand adventure when we embrace it. It can be a grand adventure when we embrace it. But that might require some changes, right? It might require some changes. Do you remember Grandma Joy? Was that inspiring? Yeah, that was inspiring. She agreed to become an adventure traveler at the young age of 85 years old. And for 8 years, she traveled to 63 national parks. That's about 8 parks per year. And I didn't know we had 63 national parks, so I looked them up. And they're all over the place, but they're also off of the coast. He said they went to Alaska. Alaska's got a national park. They went to American Samoa, way out in the middle of the Pacific. They've got a national park. They went to Puerto Rico. Our territories have national parks. So from 85 to 93, what are you choosing even now to do? What adventures are you choosing even now to do? She was 91 when she did those rapids, by the way, and they were class 3. Anybody done class 3 rapids? All right, I love it. Y'all are a lot younger than 91. All right, so just put that in perspective, right? And grandson said she was braver than he was in those rapids. And I think we have to be brave and courageous as we approach this thing called aging. Are we going to be brave enough to embrace it? Or are we going to accept the social idea or race consciousness, as Ernest Holmes might call it in The Science of Mind, that aging means sick and frail and tired and put out to pasture? Right? Are we going to be brave and say something different? Believe something different? As I've been working with this material, this subject matter this month, I've noticed, it's been in my mind, right? So I've noticed the multitude of ways that the human body expresses aging. If you've looked around, and just it's like I had those pictures 2 weeks ago of the lady that was were they both 80, I think, and they were different. One was a gym workout person and looked like she was about 60, and the other one was not. And so, how does the body choose to express it? Wednesday night, Ron and I went out and have some dinner. Walked into the restaurant. The first thing I noticed is that they had live music. I was like, yay. There was a guy up there singing, and he was singing Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley and all sorts of stuff, a variety of things. And I noticed there were some people dancing. And as I sat down, I noticed that the restaurant was rather full. And there were 2 very large tables of senior citizens, old folks, having dinner and drinks and conversation. And as I looked at the dance floor, that's who was dancing. And as I'm watching and noticing, they've got on these name tags that say who's who. I know there's a joke in there, but we're not going there this morning. But I noticed also that they would move around the table and chat with each other. Everybody was talking to everybody. The next thing I noticed was how dressed up they were, how beautiful they looked. One lady had on a leopard jumpsuit. They all had on high heels. The men were dressed up looking very sharp. One had sparkly top. One had a lovely pantsuit. Dangly, sparkly earrings. The hair was coiffed. The makeup was perfection. I felt like I was in a 1970s discotheque gone forward. I was like, wow. The life, the vitality, the energy of these people was inspiring to me. At one point, Ron looked over and he goes, "That's us in 20 years." And I kind of thought about that a little bit. And I wondered about those folks. They were 70s, 80s, 90s. Where were they? That makes them, like, in 1953, they were in their 20s. Okay, if we kind of put it in perspective. 50s, 60s, and 70s, they were in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. Who were they then? What was happening then? Let's see. Elvis Presley, first color televisions, muscle cars, poodle skirts, rock and roll. What else was going on? James Dean, hippies, Vietnam War, burning bras, flower power, man on the moon, civil rights protests. There was a lot happening in those 3 decades. These people were there. I would bet you they were a part of it because they've been living life. They've been choosing to be active and engaged in life, and they're still doing it now. So as I reflected on that comment, "That's us in 20 years," I said, "Is it?" And I thought, okay, in 20 years, I'll be approaching 84. Ron will have just turned 90. Puts it in a bit of perspective, doesn't it? Gosh, 20 years sounds short. But my answer is yes, that and so much more. So much more. So what am I doing today to create that? Because we know what we create and think about and focus on today creates those tomorrows for us, right? So what am I doing today to create that? Well, I'm going to the gym. Remember I told you I was going to do that back in, January? It took a while to warm up to it, but I'm back, and I've been going for a couple of weeks now, 3 days a week. Yay me. I can't say yay at 5:30 in the morning when I get on the treadmill, but it's coming. I watch what I eat. I'm not mental about it, but I do pay attention to what it is and when it is. I want friends and relationships as I age into twilight. So I'm working on that now. The trip that I took last weekend to Mexico, I've been doing for 17 years with this same group of women. I'm building that relationship. We started playing mahjong 2 years ago and have basically played every Friday afternoon, connecting, keeping our minds active and our hearts connected with each other. We have our annual trip home coming up in July. I connect with family. I call on a frequent basis. What are we doing to establish what it is we want to experience in our future? We have to know what we want in our future, though, first, don't we? And sometimes that can be easier from the opposite side. When we go, well, I know what I don't want. I know what I don't want. In Science of Mind, we have this thing called denials. And we use denials to convince ourselves sometimes of that's just not true, to get ourselves to be able to say, yes, this is true. And so I sort of use a process of elimination. I know I don't want to be sick and frail and alone and insecure, all those things, right? I don't want to accept that stereotype. And so we talked 2 weeks ago about the law of polarity. Remember that? The law of polarity, we use opposites. And so I want the polar opposite of all of those negative things that I know I don't want to experience. So I want friends, family, relationships, health, vitality, energy, stamina, balance, security in mind, body, soul, finances. So if those are the things that I want, that's what I'm affirming, then what am I doing to create that? What are you doing to create what it is that you want to experience as you move through this timeline of life? One of the practices that I was talking about earlier in our book of the month, Richard Lewis is the author, and he calls it a day away. How many read the book? Read that part? A couple? Okay, all right, good. He covers in about 3 chapters, really, a day away. He talks about what it is, the purpose of it, and then he gives you a schedule and he breaks it all down. And it's a private day. I kind of call it a spa day for the soul. And it's just for you. Just for you. It's not you and a bunch of friends. It's just for you and your private retreat. You plan and organize the entire day from 9 to 5. And he details this out in the book with preparation, how to prepare for it, the props and tools that you'll need for the day. He provides a schedule, the various meditations and practices and rituals and things that you will do throughout the day. So it's really lovely to have a process like that where we can take time out of routine. You know, sometimes when we disrupt our routine, we are not comfortable. You know, disrupting routine can be uncomfortable, and yet change is uncomfortable, aging's uncomfortable, all of it's uncomfortable, right? But embracing that, stepping into it and allowing ourselves to just rest in that place of discomfort to find the peace that's there on the other side of it. So if you've not read the book and you don't have the book, I will have a summary and outline of this retreat day for you so that anybody that's on the mailing list for Mindful Monday, you'll get that tomorrow. And if you're not on the mailing list, you can certainly sign up for it in the lobby, or we'll have some information for you a little bit here to sign up for that. But I highly recommend that. I highly recommend taking time for ourselves to be quiet, to step out of the busyness of what we do, to connect with who we are. To connect with who we are. This day is designed to remind us that that life is an ocean, and we're most simply float to be tossed about on the waves. This day is about the deep dive into life, into the exploration of what's beneath the surface, into understanding more about our true selves. Ernest Holmes is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. He's the author of The Science of Mind, and this whole teaching is very optimistic, as you know, has a very positive outlook on life. And he has a lot to say about aging and age and so forth. And I found a quote that I think goes along with what we're talking about today. He says, "Youth is not a time of life, it is a state of mind. It is not wholly a matter of ripe cheeks, red lips, and supple knees. It's a temper of the will, a quality of the imagination, vigor of the emotions, and a freshness of the deep springs of life. It means a temperamental predominance of courage over timidity. It means an appetite for adventure over love of ease. Nobody grows old by merely living a number of years. People only grow old by deserting their ideas. Years wrinkle the skin, but to give up enthusiasm wrinkles the soul. The science of mind teaches us how to gain a positive perspective on all of life, including aging, and the impact and the importance of our thinking on our experiences. There's a chapter in the Science of Mind text called Immortality. If you would like further reading or exploration around this topic, that would be a place to start. I've enjoyed our book and our series this month, and I hope that you have also. It's been enlightening. And Ernest Holmes, as he said, youth, and I'll add aging, is a state of mind. It is an absolute state of mind. So if you would like to take these practices and principles home and experience them in your life and use them this week, I do invite you to sign up for our Mindful Monday newsletter. It's a newsletter I send out every Monday that is a recap of the talk, the notes, the quotes, and this one will include that workshop, or not the workshop, the day away information for you that you can use. And you can sign up in the lobby with the QR code or just email me and I'll get you on the list. All right, number 1, create an affirmation for your future self. Create an affirmation for your future self. The first step of this exercise, of course, is to become aware of what that future self you want to be, right? If you don't know, if you're not clear on that, think about what you don't want. And then use the law of polarity to create the polar opposite. I will share my affirmation with you. I enjoy close friends and family relationships. My health is vibrant, my body is strong, balanced, and filled with vitality. I am active and my mind and body are flexible. I am secure in my mind, my body, my soul, and my finances. I commune daily with the divine through spiritual practices. I would be okay with that. How about you? Yeah. Number 2, create a day away, your personal retreat. Schedule a special day just for you in the next 3 months. Look at your calendar. Pick a day, commit to it, block it off, schedule it, and start your preparation. There's a process for preparing for this. Pick a location. Create your spiritual post-it notes. That'll be in the email. And collect the necessary tools and props that you'll need. And then I want to hear all about it after you do it. I would love to hear how it goes for you. I have plans to do one of these for myself, and I will share that with you, so I'd love to hear from you as well. Okay, so I'm going to close this morning with a brief story from the book. The story is about Sarah. Sarah was an artist, and the author of the book interviewed her, went to her studio where she was painting, and interviewed her for the book. Sarah was 105 years old, and she passed shortly thereafter, and the family found a letter to the author, and in it she asked him if he would facilitate her memorial service, which he agreed to do. And at the service, he shared some final lessons and life principles that Sarah had taught him just in his brief time of interviewing her for the book. Cultivate an attitude of inquiry about everything. Be alert and aware to learn something from every experience, and keep your eyes and ears open for simple pleasures. Good advice, yes? Yeah. What are the principles that you're choosing to be known by today, tomorrow, and for the rest of your life? So it is. And now it's your turn to share anything about the message, question, comments, your aging process, what's happening, what's not happening. Happy birthday.
Thank you. could do my gratitude now too. I was talking to my friend this week about my birthday coming up, which is now here today. And I said, it's so weird to think I'm going to turn 60. Like, I just can't get with it somehow.
This is an example of spiritual practice that doesn't look its age.
And she goes, this is what 60 looks like. I was like, oh, okay, I'm good. So it was just a kind of a turn it around. And I just think that the things, I guess when I was a child, how 60-year-old people looked, maybe, thinking like, well, that's not anything like me. So I really appreciated the series and your talk today. It's also relevant. And today I just feel a lot of clarity about who I am and what I want. So, and I love you all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Who else? Diane.
I was just fortunate enough I have a lot of friends from the late 60s that I was flight attendant with and pilots. And I went to the Bahamas with some people that we all flew out of New York, and we lived in the Bahamas and Freeport, and we'd go up and down from New York for $9 on Pan Am. And so I went with my friend who's been very ill, and we went to Bahamas, and one of the pilots still has a house there. So we all got together, about 6 of us that started flying in the late 60s. And 2 of them were airline pilots, retired, and they had a twin-engine airplane. So that met both of my requirements before I would get on the plane over the ocean. So I had to have 2 engines and airline pilots. So we flew to all these little islands that we used to go to, and it was just like yesterday. It was just the most amazing time. And my friend who I was traveling has been really ill, and she was well enough to go thanks to a lot of prayer treatments and to the blessings and grace. And it just reminded me, I've stayed in touch with, I have so many friends from so many places and times in my life, and I love all of them so much. I'm so grateful. And in my next birthday, I'm going to be closer to 80 than to 70. 76.
Another one that doesn't look her age. Yes, ma'am. Now, this thing won't travel that far, sweetheart, so you're going to have to come back a little bit. All right. Now you got to turn around and face that camera so we can see your beautiful smile.
I promise not to embarrass you, Catherine. Well, I dare say I'm probably the oldest person in the room this morning. I celebrated my 90th birthday last month.
Happy birthday.
What I really want to share with you is that in those 90 years, coming here to Phoenix a year and a half ago marked my 37th home. And in the last 10 years, I have traversed cross country from California to Savannah, Georgia, and now to Phoenix. So be willing to stretch what you think are your abilities and where you can go and what you can do. Mainly what brought me back to Phoenix, and I had one of our wonderful churches up in Sedona for almost 10 years, and then I left Arizona, retiring. One of the reasons I wanted to be here again was because all of my siblings are here. Mm-hmm. There were 9 of us born over a 20-year period. And we never really had time together as adults until now. And it has been such a joy to celebrate with my adult siblings, all younger than me. And so I thank you, and I thank you for your wonderful community here. I felt immediately welcomed. I was very touched by your talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Watch that cord. Thank you so much for sharing. Who else? Stephanie. No. Danny.
When I retired from the military in 2015, I could not wait to not have to go run anymore, not have to do crunches anymore, not have to do push-ups anymore. And up until 3 years, I hadn't realized how I hadn't stopped eating the same way as before when I was that active. So I had let myself go quite a bit. And when I was 49, everything in my life had changed. And I realized that, I don't want to be this person anymore. And I decided to just go all in. So I went backpacking, and I found people in their 70s on the Appalachian climbing mountains faster than I could walk. And it was inspiring. So for me, the journey started when I was 49, all over again. And I choose to look at every day, regardless of what happens, of how many upheavals there are, as an adventure. And it keeps me active in my mind and active in my body. And I'm going to be that grandmother on roller skates.
Can I share what's next for you? Sure. This is Danny's last day with us. But she's going on a grand adventure. She's putting her stuff in storage, and she's headed out to Navajo Nation first to spend some time up there in retreat, and then off to Colorado for some retreat, and then some exploration and adventure. And she doesn't know what's next. She's open at the top. So it's been a blessing having you with us, Danny. Thank you. Safe and wonderful travels. And come back and see us. Now you want to go. I got it. It was her turn.
I was actually thinking about this because I have two people in my life that like to tell me how old I am compared to them pretty regularly.
Those little short things?
Yeah. They humble you for sure. But the one day I told them I was like, whatever, I'm going to be the cartwheeling grandma. And Alexis looked at me and she said, what? And anyways, it just made me think about it. And I stand true to that I'm like, I have a similar affirmation of what that meant to me, like cartwheeling grandma. Like every day I wake up and I say, each day as I progress through life, I become more radiant, vitalent, healthy, energetic, loving, fun, all the things. And so that's really what it means to me, right? And I will be a cartwheeling grandma.
Are you doing cartwheels now?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
I can, not particularly right
I got it. Yes. Yeah, but it's doing what we are affirming now so that we can do then, It's like build the relationships now so that I can have relationships when I get there.
So it was about 10, 11 years ago. I lost my two very best friends. One was 54 and one was 57. And then just losing my dear friend last year. When I lost my friends, I made a vow to myself that I was going to look at every day as a privilege. So I feel privileged to be getting my wrinkles. I feel privileged just to breathe. So that really changed my life. And it just gave me a whole new way of thinking and living and everything. And Danny, you might appreciate this. Then I read the book Tales of a Female Nomad, and it just moved me. And it did, to the point that I moved. I didn't know where I was going, but I got rid of all my things as well. And I just took off on an adventure that lasted for like 7 years. And my philosophy was, if I couldn't put it in a suitcase, I didn't want it. So I had a lot of suitcases throughout the world, though. When I find a home, send me the suitcase, okay? But it was amazing. So best of luck to you.
Thank you, Colette. Yes.
Mine's a little bit different. This was a great sermon about our lives and making our lives wonderful. And one of my takeaways from the book, it was, what's the official title of the book? It was
Spiritual practice. Aging is a spiritual practice.
Aging as a spiritual practice. So one of my takeaways from the book was the spiritual side of it, that one of the things I loved at the very beginning of the book is that instead of thinking of being older, think of aging. And we're all aging ever since the moment we're born. And then as we go through our various stages of life, then as we're senior citizens, instead of thinking of the term older, if you focus on the aging instead, it's still like living in the present. We're living in the present. And it's so much more positive and exciting because there's so much yet to do. And then for those people that think of the term older, when we think about dying, I liked the concept that they covered about being in oneness with God. And when you get into that state of mind of oneness, you're actually ageless. If you think about it, you're ageless. And even for those that focus on the term older, if you're in that state of oneness and our time on this planet ends, you're actually eternal. And I just love that.
Thank you, Bev. Beautiful. Beautiful. One more. Anyone else? Penny. Our youngest at heart.
I am living my best life. I'm having fun. I'm making all my own choices, and I'm staying happy. And then when I go to work, I'm still Penny and fun and silly, and I don't care because that's who I am, and it seems to work with everybody else too. But I really am living my best life. I am very, very happy.
Excellent. Happy is good. All right. Thank you all so much. I am always delighted and so impressed with your sharing and what you bring to the community. You're as much as the message as I am. So thank you for that. Let's anchor this in prayer, if you would. Would you join me? How good it is that we come together in this community and to connect as we do each and every week, in the recognition that there is one power and presence, one life. That life is God. That life is my life now, and it is the life of each and every person here present, those listening online, those listening later, all included in this wholeness, in this oneness. There is nothing outside, there's not God and anything. There is only one. And we are each an expression of that one, whole, perfect, and complete in this moment of that manifestation. And so, knowing this truth, this unity that we are, I speak my word for and about each and every one of us. Knowing that as we've gathered here today, we are here by divine appointment, that we've each been blessed by this service, by all of the words shared here, by the music, and by the connections that we've made, the smiles that we've shared. I know that as we face this aging, each one of us, whether we're 2 or 220, we are all still one. We are all still whole and perfect. Aging truly is a state of mind and being. And we have choice when it comes to that. And so I choose this day the affirmation of my good, the affirmation of my wholeness, the affirmation of my beingness. And I know that for each and every one of us, this full expression of as spiritual beings that we are, of life and harmony and peace and joy and love. I know for anyone this day that has anything on their heart, as they lift it into this prayer, we as community surround them, that and that consciousness and the wholeness that we are, with love, with peace, our joy. Knowing that what is desired is manifested, what is seeking healing is healing revealed. Knowing that there's financial flow and creative expression and divine right action and order, whatever it is, we affirm it that it is so, knowing the truth of the divine that is asking it. And so I am grateful for the manifestation of this prayer. I'm grateful for this community and each and every one that is a part of it in any way, shape, or form. We are one, we are a community, and we are blessed. And I release this prayer into the action and activity of law, knowing that it is done. It is so. And we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is.